Go, baby. Go. There's a man out there. Was a bear? Was he lost his hair?
Take one to the devil. What's going on? There's a man out there.
I thank you.
Yeah.
Step into the bizarre world of the Munsters with our new Death by Stereo podcast series, TerrorVision. Join us this season as we explore our favorite episodes and immerse ourselves in the spooky adventures of this iconic family. I'm Candace, and I want to welcome you to our look at the Munsters with Memories of Mockingbird Lane. I'm going to go ahead and add my guest, my husband, Chris, or better known as Crater. Hey, Chris. How are you doing?
Doing fine. I had to set the mood for this new show so I turned all the lights off and I'm actually sitting by a candle, and I felt that would be a very fitting setting for this series that we're doing.
That's what I did with like this green light or whatever. Munsters greens. I said I'm gonna stick it on there. Set the mood for it like you. But yeah, this is something that we've wanted to do for a really long time. I'm glad to be able to do it. We just picked like 21 of our favorite episodes, and we're going to be doing each episode, I think talking about 3 episodes of the Munsters. Mm-hmm. So are you ready to get into it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is one of the greatest shows of all time. I would probably put this show somewhere in my top 10. I'm not sure exactly where. I know you definitely do. Mm-hmm. This is one of your favorite shows of all time. Probably, would you say like top 5 or top 10?
Well, it's close to the top 5. If it's not in the top 5, it's close to the top 5. I mean, it's mutually, it's something that we love. We have a Munsters hallway dedicated to the Munsters with, figures and stuff like that. And we collect Munster stuff. So this is a huge TV show for us. It's one that I've always loved ever since I can remember watching TV. So, obviously, when we decided to do this, the Munsters was the number 1 show that we had came up with. So, like I said, 21 of our top favorite shows. We love every episode of the Munsters, but we wanted to kind of dwindle it down. There's 2 seasons, but there's a lot of episodes in each season, like 30 some in each season.
Yeah, and I think the whole series is around like a little over 60 episodes.
Yeah.
That's not including like the movies or anything.
So we wanted to just pick out, the ones that really came to mind at first, the ones that we really loved the most, I guess. But who's to say that we won't come back to the Munsters later on in a different season? Each season is going to feature a different TV show, but like I said, we're only picking 21 episodes from each show, talking about them 3 episodes each episode. So this episode we're doing Zombo, the Treasure of Mockingbird Lane, or Mockingbird Heights, I'm sorry, and Will Success Spoil Herman Munster. So these are 3 episodes that we really love and can't wait to get into. So do you want to start out with Zombo, Chris?
Yeah, and before we get into Zombo, I mean, it's we got 2 episodes here, Zombo and Will Success Spoil Herman Munster. I believe that's the name of it.
Yeah.
Those are probably 2 of the most popular episodes
in
the entire series. And Zombo is my favorite Munsters episode ever.
Yeah.
I'll get into that here once we start talking about that episode.
So the way this is going to work, we're just going to talk about the episode in general, kind of go over what happens in the episode, and then just give our final thoughts on the episode. So I want to start out just telling you a little bit about Zombo, about when it was aired, what season it comes from, what episode it is, and a little bit about the director. But Zombo was aired on February 17th, 1966. It comes from season 2, episode 22, and it was directed by Ezra Stone. Ezra Stone did a lot of older TV shows, The Flying Nun, different stuff like that, mostly in the 60s, stuff like maybe 70s. But one thing that I like about this episode is that I don't know, it's just one of those episodes that makes you laugh from the beginning to the end, because Herman, the way he acts throughout it is it's hilarious. So do you want me to go ahead and start off just telling about the episode?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the episode opens up with a TV show called Zombo. I think it's like the House of Zombo. And Eddie's sitting
Zombo's House of Horrors.
Yeah, Zombo's House of Horrors. And Eddie's just sitting in front of the TV in his living room watching it. And he's like glued to the TV, he's like smiling with excitement and delight whenever he sees Zombo pop up on screen. And you want to tell a little bit about Zombo and what he looks like?
Well, I mean, it's hard to describe him because I'm not very good at giving a visual image to anyone, but he's just basically a horror host, and this was probably during the time when horror hosts were first becoming a thing, like in reality, and then they were just using that as a part of the show. And I think that's why this episode appeals to me so much, because I love horror hosts, especially like Joe Bob Briggs and Elvira and Svengoolie. And this was 80s Svengoolie. This was 80s Joe Bob Briggs, Zombo, and the way Eddie sees him is like he's real, like he's a real person, and I think he appeals to him because he reminds us so much of people in his family, and so he looks at him as a real person. So, but we'll get into more like what kind of happens with that. So I'll shoot back to you now, Candace.
Okay.
What do you have to say about that?
Well, Zombo, he's just like Chris said, this horror host type character on this show. He's got like long white hair and like these moles all over his face, a big long nose and spiky teeth, like fangy looking teeth. Zombo was actually portrayed by an actor named Louis Nye, who, if you watch a lot of older TV shows like the Ann Southern Show, or I think he even like did some voice work on Inspector Gadget, but he played a character, because I love the Beverly Hillbillies as well. He plays Mr. Drysdale's stepson, Sonny Drysdale. So you can see him in that. I think he's like 6-7 episodes. Like he like falls in love with Ellie Mae and all that good stuff. And then as he got older, and I also think he was in The Love Boat, but as he got older, he was in that show Curb Your Enthusiasm. He plays somebody's dad, I think. But he's a face that you recognize. He's one of those guys that you recognize his face, but you really don't know who he is. You see actors like that sometimes. Yeah,
and going back to how you was describing the look of Zombo, it's almost like he's a mixture of these different monsters or creatures. Like he's got like the teeth almost like either like a vampire or werewolf teeth. I'm not sure, but and then like the hair and the hat and the nose, and it's almost like a witch.
Yeah, like a wizard outfit.
A witch, and then like he's with a witch, a wizard, and a vampire, I guess, all rolled into one.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. And something that I didn't realize until I was like watching some other episodes of the Munsters. So this episode is from season 2.
Yeah.
And it's about 10 episodes away from being towards the end of the series. And about 3 or 4 episodes before the Zombo episode, there is an episode where the Munsters like inherit all this money, like $10,000 or something like that. And then Lily and Marilyn, they open up like this beauty salon or
Yeah.
something like that. And there's a lady in that episode, and when she gets a makeover, she actually has the same like makeup pattern and stuff as Zombo. So like they use that same like makeup pattern for that lady in that episode a
Yeah.
few episodes later for Zombo.
Well, that's neat. We'll have to, if we get around to that episode, we'll have to bring that back up. But
Yeah.
going back to the what's going on in the show, you see Eddie's watching Zombo on TV, and he's like just nothing else around him he cares about. So he's just like zoomed in on Zombo. Well, Herman enters and greets Eddie, but is ignored due to his focus on the show. And despite Herman's best efforts, Eddie is still aware of Herman's presence until Herman sits down on the ground and scoots in front of the TV.
Mhm.
And then, Eddie sees him and is like, "Oh, hi, Pop," or whatever. And Herman, just the way he is, he gets upset. And then it cuts to Grandpa. And Herman, I think Lily and Marilyn, they're all like sitting in the kitchen. And Grandpa, he can be seen looking at one of those like a Playgirl spoon.
Yeah, I was wanting to mention that as well. So when you first see him, he's looking at a magazine, and it's a spoof of Playboy, but it's called Playgirl, and like that. So that whole scene lasts probably about 5 minutes, between like Lily and Grandpa sitting in the kitchen. And then there at the same time there's in the living room there's Eddie and Herman, and then when Herman is coming in there to the kitchen to just let them know that Eddie's not paying any attention, and Herman is like he acts like he's jealous and stuff because Eddie won't pay any attention to him. And then, like this whole time, like Lily and Herman are having this conversation, and it'll cut back to Grandpa every now and then, and he's just like not taking his eyes off of that Playgirl magazine, and I thought that was so funny.
Yeah, I like that. I thought that was a cute little, adult humor, I guess. Not really adult. It's not dirty or nothing, but it's
like a little adult innuendo almost, like that they were just kind of like giving a laugh to adults that got that joke.
Yeah.
I really like that. It's funny.
Well, Grandpa, while he's sitting there looking through this Playgirl magazine, states how Zombo has become like the talk of the neighborhood kids. And he states that, everybody, all these kids like him and stuff. And then Lily's like, well, she's glad that Eddie likes him because, it looks like it's a good, wholesome, entertainment.
Mhm.
Basically, because he looks like them, they're normal. So that's a normal, good, wholesome figure for Eddie to be watching on TV. So they're really happy about it. And then after Lily makes that comment about Zombo being a hero to Eddie, Herman asks, I guess Lily, why can't I be his hero? Why can't he, he look up to somebody like me? And she, just reassures him that it's like a phase that Eddie's going through and that it will pass soon and don't have anything to worry about. And then like cuts back to Eddie watching Zombo again. And like he's showing, what is it, like crackers or something? He's like doing a commercial.
Yeah, it was I took a picture of it because I was like, if I don't take a picture of that, I'm not going to be able to remember that.
Like crackers or
but
something.
it's like something creature crackers or something like that. And but he pulls out like this full. It's like a body of a crack. It's like a cracker, but it's like in the shape of a human body. And then like he like crumbles it into the bowl and pours the milk in it.
Yeah, it's like a cereal. It's like a cereal, like a sweet cracker.
Yeah, it's a cereal. Here it is. Crumble creature crackers.
Crumble creature crackers. Well, Eddie's sitting here watching this on TV, and he's watching Zombo do this. Yeah, there it is.
And see, like the cereal box has also got a picture of Zombo on it. So
yeah, it's got Zombo on it. So he's sitting here doing the plug for this new cracker cereal that he's got out. And what Eddie is really waiting for is for Zombo to announce the winner of, I think it was called Who Loves Zombo contest or something like that.
Yeah, I like Zombo.
Yeah.
I think that was the name of it, and because it's just like, and whoever the winner is, they get to come on set and do an episode of a show with him.
Yeah, and they get prizes and stuff like that. And,
yeah, other prizes.
Yeah. So whenever he's sitting there watching this, Zombo gets ready and he to announce the winner, and he gets real excited and stuff. And then Zombo announces the winner, and it's Eddie. So he gets like real excited, and he goes and runs and tells his family, "Hey, I've won this contest, and I get to go to be at the studio to film an episode with Zombo." And Herman, is much to his displeasure because he's jealous of this hero Zombo person that all these kids are just taking a liking to, and who his son, he feels like he's lost interest, like his son has lost interest in him and just loves this Zombo person over him. Herman gets up and walks off. He's like mad and stuff like that. But then Eddie with his group of friends, like out on the front porch or whatever, they start a fan club. I think what they call it, like the Zombo.
Yeah, it's like a Zombo fan club, because they said they could all get together and watch the show together.
Yeah. So they start this like fan club of this group of kids who loves Zombo. And Herman's like looking through the window, and he overhears this, so he gets so upset that he gets sick and takes to bed. Like he says everything in his whole body hurts. He's just like feels like he's running a temperature, and Grandpa's sitting there taking his temperature and stuff like that. And he just says, "There's something wrong with me." And Grandpa's like, "No, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just jealous of Zombo." And he kind of reassures Herman that Eddie's adoration with Zombo will just blow over and everything will be all right. And after Herman is convinced that he is Eddie's hero, instead of Zombo being his hero, that he's like, I understand that Eddie loves me, that I do everything for the family and stuff, and he looks up to me. So he starts feeling better, he gets out of bed. And do you remember what they do next?
Well, what happens is, so he's having that conversation with Grandpa when he's laying in bed, and they're just kind of also like reiterating that it's like a phase, and he'll grow out of it and all this stuff, and that and Grandpa reassures Herman that that Herman is his family. That's what's most important, because he's the one that gives him everything that he needs and all that. And like, what else can can Zombo give him that you haven't? And then the next thing, they cut to the living room with Lily and Marilyn, and all these prizes have been delivered, like a TV and a bicycle, and there's like skis and these big cardboard cutouts of Zombo that are signed to Eddie, and it's just all kinds of stuff.
And they come down to him, and he overhears Marilyn and Lily sitting there just swooning over Zombo and just talking great about him and talking about how handsome he is. And I think they like kiss that cardboard cutout, if I'm remembering correctly. And he just gets mad. He's like, just feels bad about himself. He feels like he's, ugly or whatever.
Yeah.
And he goes and they go down to the dungeon, and Grandpa gives Herman this potion. If they said what it was called, I forget what they said it was called. If he had mentioned if it had a name, but it's like this like handsome potion to turn Herman handsome, what their version of handsome is. And he drinks this potion, and he starts doing like this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type thing, and he starts turning into like this hairy creature with like fangs, and
he grows the fangs, and his hair grows real long, and he's he's getting hair like all over his face, and it's like you said, like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type deal. But and then he puts this cape on and stuff, and what he's doing, he's trying to make himself look like Zombo, because according to what in his mind, and what based off what he overheard Lily and Marilyn talking about,
Yeah.
he's thinking that Zombo is this real handsome guy,
Yeah.
and he's like, so he's got to take this potion, and he's got to make himself look that same way so that Eddie will look up to him. So when he comes up after taking the potion and everything, and he transforms, and he comes up out of there to see Eddie and his friends, and like his friends are like taking they're taken aback, they're taken aback by what he looks like, and there's the two friends that don't really say much. One's name is Frank. I can't remember what the other one's name is. But they're just kind of like, yeah, you look, yeah, and then the third friend, Billy, says, I think that's his name, Billy. He said, my father told me not to insult older people or something like that.
Yeah.
And then like, they leave, and then like Eddie comes up to talk with Herman. And he's like, gee, Dad, did you have to embarrass me like that?
Yeah, Herman thinks he's going to go out there and they're just going to, just think he's the greatest thing in the world. But Eddie, comes up to him and is like, like Chris said, like all the kids are just kind of put off by him. And Eddie, comes up to him, asks him, not to embarrass him. And he tells him, he said, well, gee, Dad, he said, Zombo is real. He's a real guy and you're just faking it. So,
yeah.
Herman is clearly upset. So he, cuts then to like Lily and Eddie. They go into the studio and there's like a assistant or something there comes and tells them, that they are good sports for getting all dressed up for the show, unaware that they're really not, that this is how they look and stuff like that. Yeah. And then they take him like to Zombo's dressing room or whatever it is. And Eddie sees Zombo, but he sees the actor who's playing Zombo out of makeup.
He doesn't have anything on, but and Eddie's like, you're not the real Zombo. It's like, Mom, that's not the real Zombo. And he's like, yeah, this is me. I'm out of makeup and everything. And then a few minutes cut by, and there's like a time lapse thing where it shows him sitting there in that same chair, but now in makeup and costume. And Eddie's like really disappointed, and the way I always looked at this, is that because where Eddie thought he was real, and it was almost like a kid finding out that Santa Claus wasn't real. So because Zombo was Eddie's Santa Claus,
that's the way to look at it.
And when he found out that, he realized that he's fake, he's not real, it really upset him. And then next they go to do the episode, and they're sitting there and they're on TV, and Zombo's trying to talk to Eddie, and Eddie's just sitting there like, and Grandpa and Herman and Marilyn are back home watching this on TV.
Yeah, they had to drag Herman down to even watch it. He didn't want to watch it because he didn't want to watch Zombo.
But then they're sitting there watching it, and then Eddie just like, Zombo's trying to talk to Eddie, and then Eddie starts saying, Zombo's fake, and he's just like going off, and he starts like causing chaos on the set and stuff, and then Herman's like loving this, and he's like Zombo's done, or Zombo never again, or something like that.
Yeah, because like Zombo had asked him, is there anything else you want to say, or if there's something you want to tell the audience, and he's like I want to tell him that like he's a phony or whatever he says. And the family was just loving it, But,
and what's so funny is that then like Eddie he gets up and he starts like running around the set and pushing stuff. And what's funny about that is the camera is following him. It's showing this to the people watching the TV. So they're just showing like Eddie like run off to the side of the stage and like break
on the set.
And it's so awesome.
Before it showed him wreaking havoc on the set, he rips off Zombo's hair and like a mole on his chin or something like that. Then he gets up and he starts
pulls everything off of him.
And he's like just ripping everything down and just like going and swinging cameras around and all that stuff. And then it shows, then the TV screen goes blank. And then after chasing Eddie to his mom, Eddie goes behind Lily, and Zombo comes up there, and Lily's like, "Don't you dare lay a hand on my boy," or whatever. But then it kind of goes the way you don't think it's going to. Zombo kind of just does a sigh of relief, because you find out that he actually wasn't happy being Zombo. He had been wanting to get out of his contract.
He been wanting to get out of his contract for like a year at that point, and so the unexpected happens, and he actually thanks Eddie for helping him, and he says that he wanted to go and do like Hamlet and Macbeth, and he said, "My mother, the car," which if you look at like the list of worst TV shows of all time, My Mother, the Car is like towards the top of that list.
It's one of those niche shows, but I always liked it. I found humor in it.
Yeah, and but that I love that, and then towards the end of as that episode is closing, Herman and Lily are sitting there, and he just says he's like putting over Zombo at this point, because and you think he's being like serious at first, like he's saying that he loves him, and he was starting to say he was like neat and all that, and Lily's like taken aback, but then Herman starts laughing, and it's just he's just joking around. He's glad that Zombo's gone, and so because he was so throughout that whole episode, he's so jealous of Zombo because Eddie is having more of a relationship by just watching him on TV than what he's having a relationship with his dad. Yeah,
but before Zombo, sends Eddie on his way, I remember he told him, he's like, "Don't be like Zombo. Be like a nice guy like your father." But like Chris said, it just kind of closes with like them like looking, Eddie and not Eddie, but Lily and Herman are just sitting there, and he's like, he says, I kind of wish Eddie didn't expose Zombo on TV or whatever. And Lily's like, why? And he's like, well, because he didn't want to find out that he was fake. But like Chris said, it just like kind of laugh it off and stuff. But then it ends. But that is a really great episode, and I love the episode, and it's right up there with one of the greatest episodes from the whole series, I believe.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the more popular ones, because I know that they used it. I've not seen it. I know you have, but in the Rob Zombie's Munsters movie, they did have the Zombo character in that, which is played by the same guy that plays Herman in the Rob Zombie's Munsters. I can't think of that guy's name right now, but they're the same guy, and that just shows how popular that original episode was, that they go ahead and feature that in that new movie as well. And what's cool, but I've like I said, I've not seen the movie, but I have seen like photos, and I know that NECA released a figure of Zombo from Rob Zombie's Munsters, and he looks very close to what Zombo looks like on the original show.
It's really well done, I think, But yeah, great episode. I'm glad that we got to talk about it and cover it. I definitely, I think, like I said, it would probably be in the top 5 best episodes of all time. Are you ready to go on to the next episode that we're covering, or do you want to say anything else about Zombo?
Yeah, I just want to say that, like I think I already mentioned it before, but it is my favorite Munsters episode. Of all time. And I think just a lot of that has to do with because I relate with Eddie as far as like horror hosts go, because Joe Bob Briggs is my favorite horror host of all time. I love Elvira for a multitude of reasons. I love Steve Dooley. There's Goulardi. There's all kinds out there. There's a ton of like horror. There's a Chili Billy, which is an old school, kind of around this time. But when the Munsters was on, I think maybe either late 60s, early 70s, Chili Billy Cardille from out of Pittsburgh. And if anybody recognizes that last name Cardille, well, his daughter is Lori Cardille, who is Sarah from Day of the Dead.
Yeah, actress. Yeah.
But yeah, just those horror hosts and like Zachary is another one.
No, my
Um,
dad grew up in Ohio. He grew up in
mhm.
Ohio, so he would talk about a horror host that he grew up with. I cannot quite remember his name right now.
Was it Dr. Creep?
Dr. Creep. That's it. That's who my
Yeah,
dad grew up with.
he always talked about him with me
Mhm.
because
Yeah,
Doctor, and we seen him before he passed
we
away at a
did.
convention
That's
years
true.
ago.
Yeah, you're right.
Because they did have this thing at Horror Hound Weekend one year. I believe I can't remember what year it was, but they had all this whole big event where they had all of these horror hosts together. I think it was like a whole tribute to Vampira.
Mm,
Uh, or Vampira, however you want to say her name. I was never sure how to exactly pronounce it, but I call her both from time to
yeah,
time. But I think it was a whole tribute to her, and they had all these horror hosts gathered there,
yeah.
and but yeah, just before we get too far off the beaten path there, I just wanted to mention that because like that's why I love this episode so
Oh,
much
yeah,
is
it's a great
because of
one.
the whole horror host aspect of it.
So the next episode that we're going to be covering is my favorite episode of the
Mm.
Munsters, and it's called "Will Success Spoil Herman Munster?" It's from season 2, episode 12. Also, another one directed by Ezra Stone. You'll see Ezra Stone, a lot in the Munsters. You'll see that name. But the release date was December 2nd, 1965. And this episode, to me, like I said, it's my favorite episode of all time. I mean, it never gets old. As many times as I've watched it, I laugh every time. So we're going to kind of get into anything you want to say before we get into it, Chris?
Yeah, I just want to say it's also a top 5 episode for me.
Yeah,
It's another one of, I believe, one of the more popular episodes. And before we get into the episode, there is a cameo in this. Well, it's not. I guess you got a cameo, more of a guest star, I guess, in this
yeah.
of Gary Owens,
Hmm.
and Gary Owens is also in the Zombo episode as the announcer for the Zombo
Yeah,
show. And if you're not familiar with the name Gary Owens, I'm sure you're familiar with his voice. So in this episode that we're talking about now, he plays like this radio DJ. So you actually see him on screen in this
yeah,
episode, but his voice is what has really given him a career outside of the Munsters, because you may know him as the announcer for Garfield and Friends,
yeah,
and he was so that's him. That's Gary Owens. He also was Blue Falcon from Hanna-Barbera, which is Blue Falcon and Dynamite. Um, he has done tons of Hanna-Barbera stuff over the years.
yeah,
He was, I mean, there's a lot. He was Powdered Toast Man in Ren and Stimpy. He did voices on All Real Monsters. I mean, he was the original voice of Space Ghost in the '60s Space Ghost series, and then they brought him back for Space Ghost Coast to Coast in the '90s as the
yeah,
announcer. And that's what, if you go look at his credits that he's done over the years, especially for TV series, he is credited as an announcer for a lot of shows and like broadcasters and stuff like that for those shows. Just because his voice was so distinct and like it was almost like it was very recognizable, and they used, and that's why they use him as an announcer for the Zombo episode of the
yeah,
Munsters.
yeah.
But
That's really
like I
neat.
said, he's in this episode as well that we're talking about now as Eddie's friend's dad, who is
Yeah,
a radio DJ.
yeah, yeah. DJ Willett, I think's his name.
Yeah, something like that.
But the episode starts off with Grandpa like fooling down in this lab, and he gets real excited. He's working on this weather machine, and he gets excited because he's created this nice thunderstorm outside. And then it shoots to Herman coming in from work, and he's like talking about how the weather was awful, but then it turned nice. I guess talking about the thunderstorm, and he comes in, sits down by Eddie, and Eddie offers him a microphone from this tape recorder that he's got, and he states that he had borrowed it from his friend who had taken it from his dad without his dad
Yeah.
knowing. And he tries to get Herman to talk into it and to record his voice and stuff, and Herman declines and was like, takes the recorder from Eddie and sends Eddie up to his bed, which he goes. And after Eddie went upstairs to bed, Herman starts playing around with this tape recorder, and he's like talking to the microphone and just doing all kinds of funny
Yeah, he's
stuff.
making like these elephant noises and stuff that are coming out of him, but I don't know if they're supposed to be meant to be, but that's what they are. They're elephant noises, and he's like beating his chest, and he says something about he's King Kong. Yeah,
the bird says it. Yeah, the pet bird says it. The pet bird talks about how he's like King Kong and all that good stuff, and then it cuts to like Lily telling Herman to come to bed, and Herman tells her that he'll be up in a minute, and it shows him holding a guitar, so what he's going to do. He's going to be singing a song. So he's sitting there in front of that microphone, and he starts singing a song, which is his version of the song Dry Bones, which I love. I love his version of Dry Bones. It kind of talks about how Dr. Frankenstein made him and stuff like that, and talks about like how that's how Hermie Baby was born. It's just a cute little song. So he's recorded it on this tape recorder, and I guess he forgets about it. And then it cuts to the next morning with Eddie leaving early for school because he says he has to take his friend's tape recorder back to him, which then cuts to Dick Willits, who is the DJ, the local disc jockey or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that's Gary Owens' character.
Yeah. It shoots to his door, and it says that they're in Studio 5. And Herman's song can be heard playing to the much delight of Eddie's friend's father and I guess is his co-worker. And then he states that he's going to play it later that day on that show. He don't know who it's from, but he's going to play it on the radio. So then it cuts to the family sitting around, their dining table, sitting there getting ready to eat. And Eddie turns on the radio, and some rock music can be heard. And Herman tells him turn it off because they don't play nothing but rotten junk on there and all that good stuff. And then all of a sudden, like, this DJ comes over the radio and says that he's going to be playing a song from this unknown artist. And then all of a sudden, Herman's voice comes over the radio, and you can go ahead. You can tell what happens next, Chris.
Yeah, so they're playing that song on the radio, and Herman like immediately recognizes it, and then so Grandpa and Lily are all making fun of it, and they're just saying how it sounds horrible, and they're tone deaf and stuff like that. And Lily says something like, "That sounds like what Herman sounds like when he's singing in the shower." And Herman's just sitting there not saying anything,
or whatever.
Yeah.
And then like Grandpa says that it sounds like a werewolf with laryngitis, and like Eddie agrees, and he's like, "Yeah, you're right, Grandpa." And then like turns off the radio, and then after more jabs from the family, they ask Herman if he agrees, that it's, terrible singing. He just kind of sheepishly like hesitates to answer. And then I guess after feeling pressured, he kind of, says that he don't like the singing. And then it like cuts to the studio, and like that guy walks in, he's got all this mail, like they're just covered in fan mail from this song. And, you realize that Herman has become an overnight success. Like he's like huge, that song like just took over, and all these people are asking. Yeah. Go ahead.
Just requesting that they're requesting that song like over and over and over to play. And so then they like I guess like the next day, that's the next day after the previous scene, and then it cuts back to the Munsters home, and they're got the radio on again, and then they just they play it again, and they're like, "Oh, that song!" It was like that song again. Oh my! And Herman's like freaking out. You can see in his eyes that he's freaking out because they're playing. And then after they play that song again, the DJ comes up on the radio and says that they'll be offering if anyone could come forward as the artist of that song, they would be giving them like a 5-year musical contract or something like that.
Contract,
recording contract. And then you just you tell them what happens next.
Then Herman like gets up and he's like memorizing mumbling the phone number that they had stated on the radio. And Lily's like, "Why are you? What are you saying?" He said, like, that he was gonna go call that DJ, and she's like kind of confused, and he's like, that's me and stuff, and he goes and calls the DJ, and he like convinces the DJ that it's him after singing a few like bars of the song or whatever, and then it like cuts to Herman listening to his song being played on the radio, and you clearly like Herman has become starstruck on himself, and he's become real conceited and all that stuff. He's got like sunglasses and a beret on, and he's like talking like Hollywood, and it like shows like shots of him signing autographs and plucking his eyebrows. And Lily asked what he was doing. He said he was preparing to sing on this sing his hit song on that DJ Willett's TV show. And she's like, you ain't never been on TV before, it's he's just like concerned about him. And she's like, even though you're handsome, you don't have experience on TV. And he's like, don't worry about it, because if the fans like my voice, they're gonna really flip when they see me. See how good I look, or something like that. I think.
Yeah.
You can
And I can't remember like the series of events here, but I know like right after that, like Lily starts getting worried that she's going to bed, thinking about if all the success is going to go to Herman's head. So she starts having these dreams, and it shows like she has like 3 different dreams about it. So the first one she has is of Herman like playing up on the stage with these like ragtime girls like dancing around him and all that.
Like mod rockers.
Yeah, it's almost like he's like Elvis or something.
Yeah, he's like groovy.
And so then after that, she kind of wakes up and she's like talking to herself again about if he becomes like a star, like a star singer in movies and stuff. And so she goes back to having another dream, and it shows he's like in this tuxedo, and he's like at like an award show accepting like some kind of like an Oscar or something like that. And and then after she wakes up from that dream, she starts talking about like what if like he was going to get tired of her and try to find somebody else, and so she has this dream about like he's going through a divorce with her, and he's talking to this judge, and he said he just his like manager or something like that had like convinced him if he was going to have a big ego like that, he had to live big, and he could never have a woman holding him down or something. So he said he was changing women every time he changed his socks or something like that.
Yeah. Then he like Lily wakes up and she's real mad and stuff like that, and she goes down and meets with Marilyn and Eddie and Grandpa, and she's like, down in the dungeon, she's like, something has to be done before Herman turns into the man that she's seen him turn into. And while looking through his potion book, Grandpa like finds this recipe for some nothing muffins. He states like where 1 bite will guarantee to turn anything good into nothing. And then she goes upstairs and makes this batch of muffins, but then shows concern. She's like, she remembers that Herman is on a diet. And Grandpa's like, don't worry about it. Grandpa will take care of it. He'll make sure that Herman eats one no matter what. I think he says like if he has to stuff it in his mouth or something like that. And then it shoots to the shot of the kitchen, and Lily's sitting there trying to attempt Herman, who's got his guitar there at the dinner table, trying to convince him.
Persuading to sing the song, because they had this plan. Because unbeknownst to Herman, outside, Grandpa's got like this cannon set. He stuffs one of these nothing muffins in, and as soon as like Herman starts singing, his mouth like is wide open, and like the door opens, and Grandpa shoots that cannon, and the muffin goes straight to Herman's mouth.
Then all of a sudden, Herman's singing voice turns from normal to sped up like a chipmunk. So, Herman's upset, but he can't shake this high-pitched voice. It's really funny, really hilarious scene. And then he takes a tantrum and breaks his guitar, and then he's convinced to cancel, Lily and them convince him to cancel his TV appearance when Lily agrees to buy him a guitar. And then it like cuts to like the family sitting on the living room sofa and with the plate of muffins, and Herman's like passing these muffins to each one of the family members, and they're all eating them. And Herman states that he's gonna go upstairs, and the grandpa stops him and was like, hey, wait, we want to sing you this song first. And then the family begins to sing. I think it's for He's a Jolly Good Fellow. And to their surprise, all of them sound like chipmunks now. And they were surprised to find out that these were nothing muffins that they had ate. So, and then it like cuts to them laughing and just having a good time, and then the show goes off. But to me, that episode, it's so much more when you watch it. It's so hilarious. It's so funny. I remember watching this as a kid and just being so excited to see it, and I would run and get whoever was in my house just to come in. Hey, this part's coming up, come watch it. And we'd all as a family would get around together and watch this episode and just laugh, and it was so hilarious. So love this episode.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's considered one of the more popular episodes of the Munsters. I mean, and I personally, I think it's one of the greatest. It's in my top 5 definitely, because whenever I think of the Munsters, this is one of the first few episodes I always think of, because and it shows that it's. This episode in particular, popularity continued in pop culture, because I always remember as a kid too, like, because I watched the Munsters when I was a kid too. They would show all the reruns on TV all the time, and at the same time, because even as a kid, I was always interested in horror movies and horror based stuff. But it's funny because they were in this episode when he eats that muffin and he sounds like a chipmunk singing. They reference that in the Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet Frankenstein. In the end, I always remember in the end credits when the movie's going off of Alvin and Chipmunks Meet Frankenstein, they play their version of Dry Bones.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a chipmunk version, just much like how it was in the Munsters episode.
That was one of my favorite movies growing up. I loved all the Chipmunk movies though.
Oh, I loved everything Alvin and the Chipmunks, because they did Alvin and Chipmunks Meet Frankenstein. They did one where they met the Wolfman.
Yeah.
Alvin and Chipmunks was always making references to a lot of pop culture stuff, like Indiana Jones, Back to the Future, all kinds of stuff.
All that stuff. I had tapes and stuff growing up of them, VHSs and cassettes. But we want to kind of try to hurry with this next one, because we want to try to keep these kind of short. We're already going up to 50 minutes almost. So anything you want to say else about this episode before we move on to the next episode?
I just love it. If you're a Munsters fan, and you've never seen this episode, I don't know how you wouldn't if you are a Munsters fan. But I mean,
you've never seen the Munsters,
or if you've never seen the Munsters and you're watching this, even though you've never seen the Munsters, that is one of the top episodes. That's one of the top episodes to watch. Yeah.
But the next episode that we're going to be talking about is another favorite of mine. It's called The Treasure of Mockingbird Heights, which its air date was December 23rd, 1965, season 2, episode 14. This one was directed by a Charles R. Rondio. I don't know if I'm saying that right or not, but he also did episodes of like BJ and the Bear and Wonder Woman, Love American Style, and other shows like that. But anything you want to say about this episode before we start it?
I like this episode. It's not one of my favorites, though.
It's one of my favorites.
I do like the back and forth in this between Grandpa and Herman, especially after they find something in particular we'll be talking about, and they're just kind of fighting over that. And it's I love that little pandering back and forth that they did.
Yeah. So we're going to kind of go over this one a little bit more quickly, where we're kind of rounding up to an hour. We kind of want to keep these a little bit short. So I'll go ahead and start it off if that's okay.
Yeah.
So the episode starts off like when the lights have went out, like the fuse box has blown. There's been a big thunderstorm outside, and they lost all lights. And it shows Grandpa and Herman down in the dungeon looking for the fuse box. And Herman's like feeling against the walls, trying to find the fuse box, and they're arguing back and forth. And then he pushes a rock, which opens up into this secret passage in the dungeon. And like he goes into it, and Grandpa loses him, but then he yells for Herman, and Herman starts talking back to him, and then Grandpa goes and searches for the place in the wall, and it opens up, and they go in there, and they're into this old dungeon. That's got like those things that you stick your head and your arms in. I forget what they call them, but like torture devices and stuff like that. And they're talking about how awesome it looks in there and stuff. And they turn around and they see this message written on the wall. And the funny thing I always thought about this was, and it just shows Herman's innocence. He asks Grandpa to go and read what that message on the wall said first, because it might contain a naughty word. That just shows how innocent Herman was, and I always loved that. But they go and read it. Grandpa reads it, and it says like, Morgan's treasure in this valley, look behind the noble Sally. And they're sitting there scratching their heads trying to figure out what this means. And
it's really cryptic.
Yeah, and then like Grandpa states that Morgan was a pirate, and that his treasure was hidden somewhere in the must be hidden somewhere in the house. So then it cuts to Grandpa and Herman going through this big old book of pirates, and he finds Henry Morgan in there, and it stated that Henry Morgan and his crew visited Mockingbird Valley in 1672, and that they were hiding from the Spanish Navy, and it was rumored that Morgan had buried some of his treasure there, and that he had planned to return back to it, but then was hanged in the end. To which Herman replies, "That's funny. I thought they usually hung them by the neck."
That's probably the best joke in the whole episode.
Yeah, that's just one of those cute little things that Herman does, and that's why I love this show so much. It's so I just love it. The humor is my type of humor. But then, as it shoots to the girls, Marilyn and Lily, they're speculating to where Grandpa and Herman are, and they're trying to figure out what they're doing. And then it shoots to Grandpa and Herman, and they're just sitting there trying to figure out who or what this noble Sally was. And they're sitting there thinking, and they look up and they see this salamander carved into a rock in the wall. And, which is the answer to their confusion. They figure out that that's what, this was talking about, noble Sally the salamander. And then they pull that rock that salamander is carved in out of the wall, and they find a treasure map. Do you want to take over from here, Chris, or do you want me to continue?
You can go on. Okay.
Well, they pull out this map, and, get excited and stuff. And then it cuts to Lily, who's doubting all this, that there's no treasure there. She don't believe there's a treasure there. But then Marilyn states that her history teacher, said that it's a possibility because there used to be pirates in the area. And then it shoots to Grandpa and Herman, and they're sitting there searching their yard for the treasure. And the map states that they need to find an old oak tree, and they can't find one. They get real discouraged because they can't find this oak tree. They got everything else in the backyard except an oak tree. And they sit down and stuff, and they're sitting there just upset that they can't find it. And then Eddie comes, and he says something about the stump that they're sitting on, and then they realize that the oak tree was what they were sitting. It's what they were sitting on the whole time. And then they go and they walk so many steps, and then they dig and they find the treasure. And then it shoots, to the next morning, and Lily's there, and she's got this big egg, it looks like a big ostrich egg for breakfast. And it's just, I guess it's ostrich egg. It could be with them, it could be a dinosaur egg.
Yeah, and then Eddie says something to the effect because he can't wait to go to school to tell all his friends how filthy he was.
Yeah, and then it shows Grandpa. He goes down to his dungeon because he finds out that Herman stayed home from work, so he's getting suspicious, and that kind of leads into the fact that it shows that Grandpa and Herman are kind of suspicious of each other, that they're going to steal the treasure from one another. And it just goes on and on, like with some hijinks of them trying to booby trap each other. And
Yeah, and that's another joke I really liked in that episode is when Grandpa is like sneaking down there to open up the treasure chest, and like Herman's in the background, kind of like looking, to see what he's doing, and then Herman had set that booby trap that brought that barrel down over top of Grandpa, and Herman says something like, about making that booby trap, but I didn't realize you would be the booby or something like that.
Yeah, I know, had no idea that you turned out to be the booby. Yeah, but then, there's a part where Herman gets suspicious of Grandpa, and he sneaks down to look at the treasure, and he opens it up, and he don't see Grandpa nowhere, and he said, "Oh, I better be careful. There might be a booby trap." And then he opens it up, and you just see all this treasure and stuff in there. Then he like looks down in it and is getting ready to get down in it. And all of a sudden, Grandpa's head like comes up out of this treasure.
Comes up out of the middle of all the treasure.
Red-handed and all that good stuff, and they just fighting and all this stuff. And then Lily gets tired of it. She's like, "You guys are going to shake hands, and nobody's going to go look at the treasure, fool with that treasure until we get this worked out." And they reluctantly like shake hands and all that good stuff. And then it shows them sneaking down at nighttime, and they both go into the dungeon, and they bump into each other, and they get into these bear traps that Lily had set. And Lily and Marilyn, come down and stuff, and they're like caught up, and they're like said that they had no reason to worry about it anymore. And they're like, what'd you do? Where's your treasure and all that stuff? And then Lily and Marilyn had given the treasure because they were just tired of the fighting. Mission. Yeah, they were just tired of all the fighting and stuff. And she had to do some kind of solution to whatever was going on. Yeah.
And they gave it all to this rescue mission. They said the rescue mission would be able to provide them turkey dinners for the next 300 years.
Yeah, 300 years. And, instead of being upset, Grandpa and Herman, they were, they then shake hands. And Herman states that they had all learned their lesson. And that night, and if somebody, somebody helped me out of this bear trap. And he's just sitting there thinking, if only I could think of what that lesson was. So you don't know what the lesson was, but they're all were happy in the end. It's a good episode. It was a good episode. I always loved it. I love the whole pirate. I always like pirates and stuff like that. So
it's got a good lesson to it too, because it shows that money is the root of all evil.
Yeah,
and it shows that even in the strongest bond could be broken up because of money.
Because Herman and Grandpa kind of pick at each other anyway. So the girls at the beginning of the episode were just really excited to see them working together, and then when they got the treasure, they were at each other's throats. So it kind of shows what that can do to somebody. But yeah, definitely one of my favorite episodes. I think I would put it in my top 10 or 15, maybe just not my top 10. I'm pretty sure, but
I'm not sure where it would sit for me, because like I said, it's not one of my favorite episodes. I do like it though. I don't think there is a single episode of the Munsters that I dislike.
Oh no. No, definitely not. And in this episode, it shows Lily sculpting what looks to be Herman. You also see that in other episodes. I think
it's also in the episode where about the last one we just covered, where he does the song.
It's in that one too. So, and it may be in other episodes too. But you can see her sculpting throughout, like this looks like Herman to me.
Definitely.
I've had a lot of fun doing this, and I'm so glad that we finally started doing this, and I can't wait for the other episodes and stuff. So
there is so many more episodes to talk about. Like I said, Kenneth said we're going to be covering probably just like 20 or 21 episodes, something like that for this season. That doesn't mean we can't come back at a later season and do Munsters again for some more episodes. But yeah, like there's so much to cover, and we just wanted to do like 3 episodes per episode of this, so that way it would give us time to just kind of go through like a little bit at a time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think that this has been a great episode. I've had a lot of fun. I can't wait till next week. These will drop once a week. So
On Friday, mostly.
just look forward to them, and we love to hear your feedback. We'd love to hear what your favorite Munster episodes are.
Yeah. Tell us down if you're watching this after you're done. Go down in the comments. Let us know what your favorite Munsters are, and there could be a possibility that we'll cover that later on.
Yeah, and if we don't have it planned for this season, when we come and revisit the Munsters again, we'll add it to that list. We'll just see what people like and all that good stuff. So, I've had a great time. Thank you, Chris, for joining me on here and doing this with me.
Anytime.
This is so fun, and I hope to have somebody else on here, from time to time too, that loves the Munster. So, it might not just be just me and Chris. We may have guests from time to time, but real excited about what the future holds for this. We're going to be talking about some great TV shows, not just the Munsters. So just stay tuned. If you like classic TV and horror and all that stuff, not every show that we're going to be doing is like a spooky or horror type show, but a lot of them will be. But Chris, anything else you want to say before we leave?
Just, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, go ahead and subscribe. Give us that thumbs up on this video or any other videos that we've done that's on the channel. Thank you again for watching.
Yeah, and give us a thumbs up. Guys that are listening via podcast on Spotify, thank you for listening. If you've not checked out our YouTube channel, come on over here and visit us on our YouTube channel. You can watch us. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, we appreciate it. This is new to us, but this is something that we enjoy. And we're humbled by anybody who would take the time to, give us the time of day. So thank you again. Thank you, Chris. Until next time, guys, I'm Candace. This is my
Crater.
My husband, Chris, or Crater. And we will see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.